Hi, this is Andy Humberstone. I'm the head of specialist housing for EMH Care and Support, and I've been asked to talk to you today a little bit about what specialist housing do, about what new developments, changes, or improvements we've been working on, and what our ambitions are for the future. So I guess in terms of what the role of specialist housing is, in a nutshell, I'd say it's to oversee the housing management within EMH for all of our services where there's regulated care, so services supported living for people with learning disabilities or mental health, or where we're providing support to vulnerable people within the homelessness pathway. I guess to break that down a little more, you need to understand the history of care and support within the EMH group. We used to have a very close working partnership with the Enable charity, which was working in Derbyshire, providing accommodation and support to people with learning disabilities. But as their chief exec moved towards retirement, there was a merger, and we now have what's EMH Care and Support within EMH, and the old Enable charity name isn't really used anymore. However, the charity still exists. It's still a legal entity, and it owns 51 units of accommodation where we're providing regulated care to 139 people, and our role is to provide the housing management within those services. And again, within Derbyshire, we have another 29 units of accommodation for 84 people where we provide regulated care in properties owned by homes or other registered providers such as Guinness, Habinteg, and also private landlords. So we have a service level agreement with homes. We have a managing agent agreement with the RPs, and we have leases with the private sector landlords. And again, we provide the landlord services. So obviously that's things like the voids management, sign-ups, rent collection that you'd expect, dealing with ASB, although there isn't really a lot of that. But also we act as the client on behalf of the charity, managing property services who deliver a day-to-day repairs service and also a capital improvement programme on the charity's behalf. So all of those services delivered within the footprint of the old Enable charity, which my team often refer to as the north. But if there's a north, there's got to be a south. So in the south, which is really sort of the Leicestershire and Leicester and Leicestershire and surrounding areas, we have a service level agreement with Homes where we manage a lot of property on their behalf. Homes has obviously a long history of working in partnership with smaller organisations to facilitate the provision of supported living services for people with mental health and learning disability, and also supported housing for people in the homelessness pathway. And that breaks down really into two main areas, what's known as agency managed provision or directly managed provision. The agency managed provisions, we really oversee and manage contracts with partners like Framework and Falcon, who are big providers of hostels and supported accommodation for homeless people in their areas. Nottingham for Framework, Charnwood, particularly Loughborough for Falcon. As I say, we oversee those contracts. We carry out PAF assessments to make sure the properties are being maintained in good order, that the landlord services are being delivered to a good quality. We oversee the recharging of repairs where they ask us to carry out repairs on their behalf, and we do that. And we deal with rent and service charges increases, which are a bit more complex, where there's more than one organisation involved. In terms of directly managed services, there are obviously a range of hostels where we have customers in these in the homelessness pathway, hostels like Mist Lodge for young people, young single homeless in Melton. There's Durban in Colville, which is for more working age homeless people, and we have services like Liberty House in Leicester, mother and baby type projects. And in those schemes, my team also provide the housing related support. Sometimes that's under contract, where we're accountable for the outcomes to a commissioner. Sometimes that's a more lower level intensive housing management support that's paid for through a service charge, and therefore usually through housing benefits, as it's an eligible charge for customers who are on benefits. But we are also responsible for a range of supported living schemes where Homes provides the accommodation and my team provide the landlord services to support a range of registered care providers such as Creative Support, Advance, Affinity Trust to provide their services to their customers, and that covers 62 properties, 213 customers. And then we also provide the housing management support in the extra care services where we're not the registered provider of care. So that's Oak Court, Waterside and St Mary's. So in terms of new changes, developments, improvements within my area, the most obvious thing that springs to mind is the mobilisation of the temporary accommodation project in Leicester, which we've been working on most of this year. And we submitted a tender in 2019 and were informed that we had been successful in February 2020, which unfortunately was just before lockdown. But we've been successful in our bid to be awarded a contract for the provision of 14 units of supported accommodation for single homeless people or childless couples within the homelessness pathway. And our proposal was to do that in mostly one-bed flats dispersed across Leicester so that people could live close to their networks of family and friends, those kind of important networks of support, and also live in their own homes, albeit temporary accommodation, so they would hopefully soon be getting rehoused into permanent accommodation, but not having to share or facilities or those kind of things. Obviously we've had all the challenges of COVID, but despite that, my team and indeed people from across the business have been successful in refurbishing properties to a really great standard, furnishing those properties with white goods and soft furnishings, recruiting new staff, inducting them in a socially distanced kind of way. And I really need to say a big thank you to everyone who's been involved in the mobilisation of the project: housing and neighbourhoods, property services, health, safety, HR, finance, colleagues, of course my people. That service is up and running. It's fully occupied now. It's had a few successful move-ons, and it's something I think that we can be really proud of. Similarly, we've been involved in remodelling Vaughan Street in Colville. Again, we were successful in winning a tender for the provision of supported move-on accommodation, this time from Durban House. So we did a bid to North West Leicestershire District Council and were lucky enough to be awarded the contract that we'd applied for. So we've just finished refurbishing that property, which used to be used for people with learning disabilities, but unfortunately it really become not fit for purpose. It was only occupied by a couple who no longer wanted to live there. It was a big house, difficult to heat, they couldn't afford the bills, and they really wanted to be rehoused into general needs accommodation, which we were our housing neighbourhoods colleagues have been really helpful in making a direct let there, and we've been able to take that really old tired property and give it a really great remodelling, reworking, refurbishment, and that's now a fantastic standard. We've recruited new staff, and again we've just started taking referrals to that scheme and moving people in, and that is a great success story, which again I need to thank everybody that's contributed for delivering. In terms of our future ambitions, really we want to become a provider of supported accommodation with homelessness that provides a high quality evidence-based support that is in line with the best practice available in the sector. And to do this, we're piloting what's known as the PI approach. PI standing for Psychologically Informed Environment. And that includes providing a high quality living environment for people that helps to support people's self-esteem, well-being and motivation, plus providing staff with the training and tools they need to deliver support that's person-centred, asset-based, and which really empowers customers to take control of their own pathway to recovery and resettlement. So we're hoping to baseline that to be able to demonstrate that it allows us to achieve better outcomes for the people we support, but also that to demonstrate that staff are more engaged and more proud of the services that they're providing. And so I hope that in perhaps a future blog I'm able to report back on how the Pi project has gone, how that pilot's performed, and to share with you some of the success that we've had from that. Thank you very much.